The Bully Girl Magazine podcast is your dog-eared audio destination, bookmarking the most compelling tales and insights from the vast canine universe. While we passionately dive into the world of bully breeds, dispelling myths, offering training tips, and discussing breed standards, our scope isn't limited. We cast our net wide to encompass a diverse range of dog breeds, ensuring no tale is left untold. Enhanced by expert interviews and inspiring stories, this podcast is a beacon for responsible ownership and breed education. It's where bully breed enthusiasts meet the broader dog-loving community, fostering unity, understanding, and shared joy in every bark and wag. So whether you're out walking your dog or listening at home, be sure to enjoy the show and keep coming back. So glad you're listening or watching Bully Girl Magazine podcast. We have a very special guest with us today, and I am so excited. Joining us now is Dave Wilson, who started Razor's Edge in 1990, breeder of APPD and ASD, and American Bully for 33 years, president of the ABKC, co-founder of the American Bully, and co-owner of Atomic Dog Magazine. He has been with this breed, the American Bully, since its inception. Dave, welcome. So glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Tired, but good.
Yeah, well, I'm just so excited. We are so excited to have you. So I always ask the guests the first two questions, the same questions. The first one is, does your dog, and it could be any of your dogs, do anything funny, unique, interesting, unusual that makes you smile?
The house dog Pola, her biggest thing is just her little rollover thing. I love it when you tell a dog just roll over. But the funny thing to me is we have two house dogs, Vino and Pola. We're best friends, but Vino is not allowed in the upper level of the house. Pola make sure that she owns that part of the house, and it's only her part of the house. So he's a funny dog. He'll come to the front door, but will not come in the house for the life of him. But you let her in downstairs, come in and play all day, but scared to death to come in on the upper level. But to me, that's funny. It's funny to see a big old macho male that he's like, nah, I'm not stepping foot on that part of the house. I'll stay downstairs. Yeah.
I love that. Now, the second question has two parts. First is, when did your love of dogs begin? And then secondly, when did your love of bully breeds begin?
I mean, I've always had a love of dogs my entire life, but my love for bully breeds really began in like middle school when, um, I was walking to school. Sometimes I would miss the bus and walk to school, and there was always this one dog, never forgetting him, Cujo, a white pit bull that was, they'd always had him tied to a tree. And I was always afraid to go up to the dog, but just the impression of the dog and how tough and cool he looked. And, from that point on, like I just fell in love with Cujo, and I would miss the bus on purpose sometimes just to walk, just to see the dog. So that was the first dog that actually like really got me in love with the American Pit Bull Terrier, even though I never knew the dog.
Oh,
So
yeah. No, I can see that. Yeah.
no
My
personal
first
connection at all, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, my first pit bull, people who listen know, was a dog named Ahu, who was a red nose, and oh my God, just such a beautiful dog with those striking green eyes. So I read that one of the reasons you started developing the American Bully breed in the early 1990s is that you wanted a bullier dog than average, and I love that you had this saying, putting the bull back in terrier. Can you expand on this for us, Dave?
Well, even when I was breeding the American Pit Bull Terrier, we were always, me and a couple other breeders were always breeding for what we call the bullier style,
Yeah.
which obviously just really means bigger head, more muscle substance, a little more body mass. So we always bred that direction. And that was one of the token phrases of Razor's Edge. One was, where females outdo other kennels males. Another was putting the bull back in terrier. There's a few little things that we said like that. So we were always breeding that direction. But when the UKC decided to change their standards, it kind of isolated the bullier style of dog. They followed in the Amstaff's direction and started going more for a terrier style. So
Right.
that kind of left, Razor's Edge and a couple other bloodlines really with two options. One, you can't show anymore, or two, conform and breed that direction, which we took the first. I was in love with the style of dog that I had, and I was always breeding
Yeah.
for a bullier style dog. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of just forced us into a new direction, really. So a lot of the initial conception of the American Bully was never truly the idea of what we had today. It was kind of something, it wasn't set out, it was something that we kind of got pushed into. And then from that, everything developed from there. So it was
Oh,
never an intentional idea. So,
that's really cool. That's so interesting. Oh, go on.
no, that's it. That's it.
So I was wanting to let people know who don't really know, because if you see some of the American bullies, you could be a little bit intimidated. I mean, they are very stocky, they're very muscular, but they have a wonderful temperament. Can you tell us a little bit about the American bully, especially for people who are new to this beautiful dog?
Well, just go a little bit further into that.
Sure.
The the American Pit Bull Terrier appeals to people for different reasons, sometimes the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But what really appealed to me and many people was the power of that breed, strong, powerful looking dog. So when we finally did come up with the concept of the American Bully, which is a mixture of different breeds,
Right.
um, the idea was we want a dog that looks even more powerful, looks stronger, more of a bodybuilder, whereas a pit bull is more of an athletic style
Yeah.
muscle. We were looking for more of a bodybuilder style muscle. So you're putting on bulk muscles. And we knew that the stigma that would come with that would probably be that, oh, this is a mean dog or a tough
Right.
dog, or. So and I also knew that a lot of the people that own the dogs weren't experienced dog breeders. A lot of people that got into the breeds were new dog people. So we wanted to create a dog that's temperament didn't fit its appearance, because we already
Right.
knew the stigma was going to come. We've already dealt with that through the American Pit Bull Terriers and American Staffordshire Terriers. So the concept was we need a dog that has a mellower demeanor than either a
Yeah.
pit bull or an Amstaff. And that's really the whole basis of it, was we wanted something that where dogs could get along with dogs, where every dog
Yeah.
was friendly. Its purpose was just to be a companion breed, which most breeds are anyway nowadays. Most breeds are pets. They're not all working breeds anymore. So we felt like it should have a personality of what a companion breed should have, and that should be a dog that can be in any situation and just has a great laid back temperament that would be fit into an apartment life or farm life, whatever type of life you had. So we just wanted something that, knowing people would look at it and think it was a tough, mean dog,
Yeah.
that the personality would completely be the opposite. So it would just be a loving, eager to please, friendly family pet.
See, I love that. I've always told my husband that for the rest of my life, I have to have a pit bull. But now that I've learned about the American Bully, thinking, I think I'm going to try, I'm going to get an American Bully. And I'm especially interested in the pocket. Can you talk to us about the different types?
But the American Bully has three varieties separated basically on height: pocket, standard, and XL. I mean, they're all just basically the same exact dog, just differences in height. The pocket is obviously the shorter, more compact of the three varieties. Personalities, everything that we said it is. I think, in all honesty, the pocket's probably the easiest to own dog, because it's all that in a compact little package. So great for somebody in an apartment. But yeah, it's just I also think they tend to have the most exaggerated look because they're so small with all that muscle and a
Right.
mass on them. So to me, that's the cutest of the three varieties. But again, they're all the same breed. All three varieties are the same breed, just separated
And
by.
what do you want people to look for in reputable breeders?
So really, you have to look for consistency. Consistency is the key of everything, and not
Right.
just the consistency of good homes, but that's obviously one thing. You want to see people that have got dogs from the breeder, that you can see a history of dogs with a similar temperament, a history of dogs that have a similar look, so the look of the dog that you're getting. So everything is based on consistency. When you look at a breeder, you don't want to just look at what they're putting out there on Facebook or Instagram
Right.
or whatever. You want to see that there's some consistent history of dogs that have the temperament and have the look of what this breeder has, and that's how then you'll know whether or not you're dealing with a reputable person or not. Um, so really, just do your research. Really, and just find other people that have gotten dogs from that person, and just to make sure that they have a good reputation and good credentials, not just
Yeah.
high price or something like that. That doesn't mean you're going to get a good dog.
Yeah, that's so true. That's why I love working for Bully Girl magazine because they really do their homework. And I'm so impressed with the breeders that we have interviewed. I mean, really. I mean, especially when it comes to like the health measures that they take.
Yeah, well, Bully Girl's been around a long time. Before I did this interview, I started to think back how long
Yeah.
they've actually been around, and I can't even remember that far back. They've been around for a long time
13.
doing a good thing. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, they really are. Now, I want to talk about the ABKC. I heard you in an interview talking about what you saw with the UKC, which was pretty ugly: racism, judgment about people's appearance. And you share a story about what happened at a park, which was so disturbing, and how that kind of informed you about and inspired you to start the ABKC. Can you tell us about that incident?
Well, so if anybody knows me, my house has always been a place where everybody would come. Everybody gets along. It doesn't. Nobody cares anything about race,
Yeah,
religion, region.
love
It doesn't
that.
matter. It's just always a place people come to enjoy dogs, and we've always been that way. That's the concept of Razor's Edge. That's why so many people have been involved from all over. But I was big in showing in UKC for many years, and on the East Coast, the shows were very small, so you didn't see a lot of the interaction of things. And me being a competitor, I always did good with UKC. My dogs are always titled, and they're always top 10 dogs, and so I didn't notice everything as much until everything kind of changed. And like I said, the standard kind of changed. And, you know, we kind of stopped competing. And then there was a show out in California one time that was called the California Classics. And I had stopped showing for a couple of years, but kind of got challenged by some California breeders in the UKC, like basically saying my line, was dead and it never really did anything. So I said, you know what, I'm going to find the best dog that I could find, a Razor's Edge, and I'm coming out there to show.
Oh
And
yeah.
to my surprise, when I got there was probably 50 people there with dogs that weren't part of the show. They all had UKC registered dogs, but they were all there to meet me. And it wasn't just Razor's Edge. It's when I got to meet, some Gotti dogs too. And it's like, I got to see all these people that were so excited to meet me and so excited to be there with their dogs, but nobody had ever told them what to do at shows or anything like that. So they were just there with their little tents, and it was a great thing.
Oh,
But the show, people actually came over and said, they all had to leave, and they were going to call the police if they didn't leave. And
horrible.
in all honesty, they weren't doing anything. So what we did is it was a public park too. So in that part of it, we kind of moved them over to another area in the park, and I still went and showed. And by the way, won everything that whole weekend. Took
All
best in show and
right.
weekend. Proved my point. Um,
Yep.
but at that point, I noticed like this is really not right, because you're pushing away people that want to do something positive, that
Yep.
have dogs registered with you. So my feeling was like, this isn't the right way to approach it. Yeah, maybe they're not entering the show, but you shouldn't be so cold and turning people away to the level that you're not giving an alternative or helping them or anything. It was like, to me, it was very cold the way that people were treated. And these are people that were there to meet me. So I felt very personal about it. Like this is,
Right.
these are just people that meet me. So I kind of left that weekend feeling a lot different about things when I saw that. And then I returned maybe a month later to another show out there. I didn't enter the UKC show. And the same thing happened. There's people over on one side barbecuing with their dogs, and the show was way over on the other side. And this time they called the police again and had
Oh my
everybody
God.
removed. And this time it really offended me, because I went up to the host of the show and I said, what's going on? They're like, and this is what they told me. They said, oh, Dave, you're okay. You're fine here. You're UKC. You're okay. But these people, you're not from California. You don't know them. They're gangsters. They're this. We don't want them at our events. And at that point, I realized, like, this is beyond dogs. Like, there's more going on here than just
Oh
dogs.
yes.
This is racism. This is profiling people, and
Yep.
things like that. And I was like, this is actually morally wrong, and I can't stand for this. And at that point was really when I made my personal stance. I can't stand for this, because I understand they're not competing in the show, but they were way on the other side of a park, just there with their dogs and, just having a good time. They weren't causing any kind of, issues. So that was for me, the straw that broke the camel's back. That was the final thing that said, you know what, I can't stand for this. And I can't stand for something that's going to just push people away because of what they look like or
Yep.
who you feel they are or whatever. I mean, everybody deserves a chance in life, and everybody who loves dogs deserves a way to have fun with their dogs. So,
Exactly.
that to me was the breaking point to where I just said, I can't stand for this. We need to do something on our own that's separate from this, that's welcoming to everybody and welcoming to people who maybe don't have the show experience or maybe didn't, have this background, but something where everybody could come, feel comfortable, and enjoy the dogs, and then start to teach people about, how to show dogs, how to handle dogs, what type of collars you should, all these things that could come later. But the bottom line is, first you got to treat people like people. You just can't
Yes.
just, call the police on people that are doing absolutely nothing wrong. So that's really the stories that kind of led me personally to where I felt something had to be done.
Well, I was really moved by that because that could have turned deadly. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, I can have a whole nother conversation on racism, police brutality. So I'm so glad that you did this because I get so disgusted by racism and judgment. And I think there's a lot of racism in just not liking bullies. Like I think it goes together. I had a conversation recently about this with somebody about assuming the type of people like this one guy I interviewed who's black, someone went up to him and is like, "Oh, figures you own a pit bull." You know,
Yeah,
it, that's so sick.
it's everything is, the thing about the bully and people too, this to me is like what I call like it's a grassroots type thing, the way it was all built.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like a second chance thing. Like, we had the pit bull, we had the stigma with the pit bull. We fought for
Yeah.
years to for the pit bull to have their rights. The American Bully is something new now. It's something
Right.
that here's another alternative. Now you have another breed of dog that's a tough looking, like very physically impressive dog, but
Yeah.
again with a very mellow demeanor. But here's another chance. Like, here, give something a second look. Don't just judge something off of its first look. And
I
that's
know.
kind of how the American Bully was. And kind of a lot of us of owners, the original owners, were that way too. A lot of us were guys that maybe didn't, I didn't have the best past when I was a child. I was a stupid
Yeah.
child. I did stupid things. And a lot of us come from all
Yeah.
different things, that
Right.
maybe, we didn't have the best past, but
Of
I
course.
can't tell you how many people's lives have been changed by doing the American Bully. Because I can't tell you how many people have come and said, you know what, this gave me something to do in life. I grew up this way. I did this. I was whatever I was doing wrong. Now I'm a father. I'm a mother. I have a family.
Yeah.
And, yeah, okay, I'm tatted up. I have all these things, but I'm still a good person,
Of
and I want to do
course.
something with my dogs. And this gave us something and gave us something to do and something positive to do where we could be ourselves, but yet still come together for the love of the dogs. And now we have kids and all these other things. So there's a lot of great stories to the American Bully that are never told.
Yeah.
And I mean, it bothers me sometimes in this world that we're always at each other's throats for stupid things,
Yeah.
or there's things that are going on in the world right now with in the UK. And it's like, there's so many great stories. So many lives have been changed and touched by the American Bully that somewhere along the way, those stories need to be told and the other stories need to disappear.
Exactly. Could you share one with us?
Well, that to me was one of the best ones when I had people coming up to me. But
Yeah.
I always tell the same story at the show in LA because to me, it was like, something I never understood. But I told you, I was at a show in LA, and it was a big show, and there's a lot of people at the show. It was an atomic dog show that we threw. It was ABKC sanctioned by Atomic Dog Magazine through the show. And I just tell you, I had this. They had I'll tell you two stories actually, but in this one they
Okay.
had the police in there, and they had like gang patrol or whatever you call it, gang squad, whatever they call that force of
Yeah.
the police department.
Yeah.
But anyway, finally I had a guy come up to me and he's like, "Man, Dave," he said, how is this happening? I said, what do you mean, how's this happening? He said, you don't understand. Like, a lot of these people that you're seeing on the street, they don't get along. Like, we thought coming in here, this was going to be a disaster. We thought there was going to be shootings and violence and all this. That we've never seen anything like this where everybody's just getting along. And it's like to the point that there's no point in us even being here. And
Yeah.
he said, I don't even know how you're doing this. And to me, I didn't know either because I'm not from LA. So I don't know who's who on the street. I don't know what's what.
Right.
I mean, for me, I don't know that. So it's foreign to me. But I know I walked away thinking, wow, if that impressed the police force there, then something big is happening. And again, it
Absolutely.
happened one time in Virginia. We had a show, and there's a lot of negative publicity about the show and all the bad things that were going to happen. And they forced us to hire police and security, and again, gang task force is what it was called, to come in. It's ridiculous stuff. And again, even at the end of that show, I had the gang task force, like, I don't even know why we're here. But he said at the end, this was the greatest show we've ever been to. All of us got pictures with the dogs. And so you saw all the police department and the gang all outside taking pictures of people's dogs and like just loving it and walking away saying this is not what we really thought it was. We thought from what was being said and by the impression we had of people going in that
Right.
possibly this could be something. And he said this was actually a great, amazing event. And a lot of those people ended up buying bullies later on. So
Oh,
it's
nice.
there's countless stories of things like that where it's just false identity, where people think something's going to be negative because they
Yep.
have these predetermined stereotypes of people and
Yep.
dogs, and then they come to find out that none of it's true. That
Yeah.
people can get along. I don't know why that concept is so hard to believe, but people actually can all get along. And when everybody loves something and works together for the love of something, it's like everything else is thrown out the door. And that
Yeah.
happens over and over. Go to an ABKC show one time, anywhere in the world, down in the South, out on the West Coast, anywhere in the world, and you'll see all walks of people, children running around, all different races, everything running around, and there's no issues.
Awesome.
Everybody gets along. It's like it's something I think the world needs to see from a different perspective. Instead of
Yeah.
seeing it from the perspective of negative things, what has to be wrong? We're missing the fact that here's something great and positive that doesn't go on this way in the real world, that the real world really needs to see, that the
Oh,
real world
yes.
really needs to understand. At some point in time, if we can all get along, we can all love each other. It doesn't matter any of the other things that go on out in the world. Who cares about that stuff? We all love our dogs, and we can all respect and love each other for having that same love. And I think that's the best thing about ABKC, the American Bully culture that we've created.
Yeah.
It's something that the world needs to see and take a step back and realize this is something on a humanitarian level. This is bigger than just dogs. But again, those stories never get told, and it hurts my heart when our people fight each other or the outside people are attacking us because we actually really did create something that people could just be people and enjoy themselves. And,
Yeah.
I wish more of that was seen.
I do too. I mean, that's just so ideal. I was really lucky because my grandparents and my parents taught me about the evils of racism very early. in life and about not judging people by how they're dressed, appearance, race, religion, the whole thing. So that's like hardcore in me. And so what you're describing sounds like my paradise. I like to be around lots of people, lots of different types of people, people with different backgrounds, people with, beautiful dogs who all love their dogs. That's the common denominator.
And that's what it is. So, and
Yeah,
to take it even further, if you go to one event, you will see kids running around. You
I
don't
love
see
that.
dogs biting each other, dogs fighting each other. You
Right.
don't see dogs attacking people. You don't see any of that at our events. And these events happen every single weekend around the globe. In America, we average 2 to 5 events every weekend. Somewhere internationally, we average 1 to 2 every single weekend. So every single weekend around the globe, you see these events, and it's always the same. People getting along, dogs getting along, kids everywhere. There's nothing. So there needs to be more of that shown instead of everybody coming on and fighting these things and saying my dogs are great, they're loving, they're supposed to be. We can show them by just going to a dog show. Say go to a dog
Yeah.
show, take your camera, go, and you'll see for yourself. Just go to an ABKC show and you'll see exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I haven't been yet and I'm waiting for one to come. And I was thinking, I'm just going to fly somewhere because I really want to experience it. And I want to talk a little bit about how the ABKC sanctions the dog shows and they must use the ABKC's rules, criteria, guidelines, and judges. Talk to us a little bit about that. And also how you do one show a year. Now, that might be old information I gathered during my research, but let me know if that's true in
Okay,
terms of
so
you guys doing the one show per year. That's the
so when we
ABKC.
started the ABKC, we wanted it to be affordable and we wanted it to be as cheap as we could possibly make it for people to enter shows. So we don't host the shows; we sanction the shows. So normally you'll have
Okay.
a host that'll agree to host the show. They'll get the venue, the insurance, and what they have to do with us is they have to use our rules for how the ring needs to be set up. There's a bunch of rules about the location too: indoor, not on dirt, bathrooms, accessible water, all kind of food. So um,
Yeah.
but the ring is sanctioned by us, so they have to use our judges, our pointing system, our reps to do all the paperwork and record all the points. And then we have certain types of trophies and ribbons, that you have to have, certain caliber. So basically, the host, all the money from the show goes to the host, and then the host will pay the judge or whatever, the venue and all those things. We don't actually make money on shows, um,
Okay.
but they have to follow our sanctioning rules. So that's why you go to show. It's an ABKC sanctioned show, but doesn't
Uh,
necessarily mean it's hosted by ABKC. And the reason we did that was so that we could expand and have shows
mhm.
everywhere around the United States and have shows all around the world and have affordable shows to where you know wasn't cost gouging or anything. So it's a misconception. I think a lot of people think, oh, ABKC is making all this money on dog shows, and we don't get a dime from a dog show. I think we charge a $150 application fee, which doesn't even
Yeah.
cover the time for the data input at the end of a show or all the phone calls prior to a show or everything. So we do the shows for the people, and we make it to where it's accessible and affordable to everybody. So we sanction shows, we don't host them. At the end of the year, we host nationals. That is the only show that we host.
Okay.
And our feeling was we want to have one premiere show for everybody. So everybody says, you know what, I get to go to this show. I get to, it's my dress to impress time. That's why we don't have sponsors. We don't ask for anything. We will fund it all. We feel like it's an investment back in the community. So
Oh,
we try to, it's like a dress to impress. It's our big premiere show at the end of the year where we always host it in a major city. Lately it's been Houston because
ooh,
sometimes it's very hard to move it around with different city laws and things. In Houston, it's been great
yeah.
for us, and they have 2 international airports, and so it's kind of become the home. But anyway, it's like a black carpet event where
Ooh,
everything where it's just we want everybody to feel special. We want everybody to feel like this is for them. Where all the top dogs come to compete, all the competitors from around the world, and we just want to give them like our version of like a what AKC has Westminster,
right.
we have nationals. Obviously, it's still not to the level of Westminster, which maybe one day we'll get to that level. But at the same time, it's still our vibe, though. We have our
Oh,
own
yeah.
vibe. Our rings are professional, but the atmosphere is always cool, relaxed. Music, vendors, food. So
Mm,
we like to keep the atmosphere comfortable for everybody. But that's the time when you get in the ring and you bring your best. You dress up, and you come to the compete for the top. The best show of the year. So it's really just our give back to our community to say, hey, you've all worked hard all year long. Now this is your event. We're going to dress it up. We'll put all the money that we could possibly put into it, pipe drape, custom awards, everything. It's for you all. So that's what Nationals is. It's your end of the year premiere event hosted by ABKC.
Well, that sounds amazing. When is it? I want to
It's
go.
always the first weekend in December. We moved it around
Okay.
before, but I think we're comfortable saying first weekend in December every year. So this year it's December 2nd in Houston, Texas at the George R. Brown Convention Center.
Oh, okay. All right. I can't wait. Now, I was also reading that there's stricter guidelines that are in place now versus when you first started out in terms of the criteria for registering dogs into the stud books and things like that. If you can touch on that a little bit.
So yeah, you have to start somewhere.
Of
And
course.
I gave you the short version of where we started.
Yeah.
So when you open up stud books, basically
Hmm.
you're opening up all the dogs applying to basically be the foundation behind a breed. All the
Right.
initial dogs coming in that are going to make up the gene pool of your breed. It doesn't necessarily mean it's different breeds. It just necessarily means there's dogs that are fitting the criteria of what needs to be in the gene pool for the American Bully breed to continue. And once you start doing that, then you start doing the next generation, which is, American Bully to American Bully,
Right.
and continue that on. So in the beginning, everything was a lot looser. The standards for the breed, the first written standard, didn't have as many flaws and everything that it does today because
Hmm.
we're getting everything started in building the breed. As far as the criteria to enter your dogs into the stud books in the beginning was a lot looser. I think really UKC pedigrees were the main pedigree that was being accepted for that. As years have gone down the line, everything changes. In 2018 or something, I believe we tightened the standard up. We made it stricter. Um, we took away a few things and then we made flaws, more disqualifications, and made a stricter standard for the dogs. And as far as the criteria to register for an American Bully, that is now a stricter criteria as well. To one day, the stud books will eventually close. You don't close stud books on a breed within the first 50 years because you need enough dogs to
Hmm.
continue the future of a breed, to preserve the genetics to a future of a breed. So you have to have enough dogs in a gene pool in order to do that. And that doesn't happen in 15, 17 years.
Right.
So when you're building a breed, which is what we really did, we built a breed. We're not a
Amazing.
registry, normal registries acknowledge existing breeds. We were a registry that was created to create a breed and then build the breed. So that's why I always try to explain to people that ABKC is a little bit different than AKC, UKC, and these other registries because we created and built the breed. And that's what we are doing. We're still building the breed. Another reason why I'm so not anti, but I'm so like at this moment, we need to keep under one house of ABKC until this breed has finally completed itself and gotten to where it needs to be with consistency, health, genetics,
Right.
everything, but we're still very far from that because again, we're 17, 18 years, really 2004 was the day the books opened. So
Nice.
my math's not great, but I think that's
I
19
only
years.
know it's 19 because I have a 19-year-old daughter who was born in 2004. Otherwise, I wouldn't know.
Well, there you go. If I had a calculator, I could have just told you 19, but
Me
math's
too.
not my
I still
strong point.
count math on my fingers.
Yeah, I'm bad at math and my dog's age. I tell everybody, if you come to my house, my dogs are 8 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. That's the only age we have here. So
Yeah.
don't ask me
Math
anything in between. I don't know. Um,
the same
I
the
just know
same way.
significant shot times. I know at this time we finish these shots, they're this old. 3 months we're giving another shot, 6 months another one. So a year another
Right.
one. So, yeah. So, but yeah, it's 19 years. 19 years to some seems like a long time.
Yeah.
And the genetics of a breed is not stemming from many different breeds. It's very young. So we're still quite a ways away from where you would completely close the stud books. But every generation you get stricter on what you allow, don't allow. And we're finally at a point that I would say 90% of registrations are from puppy registrations, litter
Mm.
registrations. Single registration is way down, and that's a little bit more in other countries that we still are building the stock in other countries. But in America, you're
Right.
not really seeing a whole lot of what they call single registration anymore, which is dogs entering the stud book. So, we're getting there. We're getting there. And I think we'll probably close our stud books prior to 50 years just because there's nothing left that's going to
Right.
be able to enter. So,
Yeah.
we've done well moving throughout the world and building the breed throughout the world. So I don't foresee the stud books being open more than another 20 years max, if
Mm.
that.
I want to talk about the importance of functionality. I heard you talking about this when it comes to the American Bully, that there is this goal of exaggerating the features, but you have to ensure that the dog is not falling apart, like they can handle it, right? How do you think breeders are doing with this overall? And what can we do to make sure that they're not overbuilding them to the point where they're going to have health issues?
Well, here's the issue. What we are looking for the ideal American Bully to be is very difficult to create.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the hardest breeds that I know of to create. One, because it's still young. Two, because we're looking to put a lot on a structure of a dog, the frame of a dog, without causing it to fall apart, without making it to where it's not functional. So
Right.
we're pushing boundaries, but trying to keep it within the guidelines. So it's a difficult breed to create properly. And then we have other issues of social media where anything and everything can be sold on social media. That doesn't, there's no guidelines to people buying. And unfortunately, it's not just the American way, it's everywhere. Is
Right.
exaggeration always sells. And
Right.
people always want the more exaggerated, the more bizarre, the more whatever they can do. And they'll spend more money for whatever they feel is an oddity. And it's like
Right.
when there's that much money going around and people trying to will spend money for something, it's hard for us to regulate the hey, don't buy this. This isn't correct. But how do you tell people when like, well, I can get $40,000 for this, so it's like it puts us in a really hard situation to say our dog shows and the dogs that win at the top titles, and this is what we're telling you is correct, what it should be. It's very hard for us to be able to stop anything beyond that from happening because if the market is there on social media nowadays, you can do anything on social media. So it's a weird time. This
Yeah.
didn't used to happen in older days because we didn't have that element of social media like we do now, where
Right.
people, anything can sell for anything. It's just crazy to me. But you know, back to the real thing is the breed has to be functional. That's the point of the breed. If you're creating what we are calling a companion breed, it
Right.
should be a breed that does everything you do. I'm not saying if you're a long distance runner or something like that. That's different. You're not the average
Right.
fan, you know. But anybody that goes for a walk with their family or goes hiking or does nothing, sits in the house and just wants to this dog should be able to do all of those things, and all of
Right.
those things require functionality. So the breed should be functional. So you shouldn't be producing dogs that are so overdone that now they're
Right.
not functional. And
Right.
those are things that we're going to see plaguing the breed because when you're breeding a heavy dog, it's putting a lot of weight on it. You're more prone to dysplasia. You're more prone to issues with
Yeah.
the pasterns, which basically like the wrists, basically, because
Yeah.
you're putting so much weight on a dog. You're more prone to things like that. You're breeding you're looking for a dog that is going to be more prone to a lot of these things because of the weight, because of the mass, because of all of that. So it's a very fine line and a difficult line, but it's the most important line is functionality.
Right.
Because if the breed cannot function, then it can't do what it's supposed to do and it's not healthy. And we're
No.
dealing with dogs that are going to have genetic disorders and things like that.
Right.
So yeah, it's very hard. We're in a weird market because the bullier, the better as far as selling. Hey, give me the freakiest looking thing we can get, and we'll spend the most money for that. And we're like, wait, but that's not the essence of what we're saying.
Right.
Yes, it's supposed to be an extreme looking breed for muscularity and substance and head shapes and sizes and all of these things. It's supposed to be, but it's still supposed to be functional. So,
Right.
all we can do is continue to promote the standards and continue to have shows and hopefully show that the dogs at the top tier levels are what we're referring to. And, you know, it'll come back to a core group of people eventually that are breeding for the real deal American Bully.
Yeah.
Once the bubble of COVID's over, which it is now, and the bubble of exaggeration on social media ends, which it will, all these things are phases. We'll
True.
get back to more of the core dogs, the real dogs. But, they're there and that's what we're promoting. But it's a weird world with social media.
Oh my gosh, it really is. That's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
I,
that's,
yeah.
yeah.
My husband's always bragging. I'm not on social media. I'm like, well, I have to be for my work, and I do like to look at all the dogs. But yeah, it really is. I want to talk about the uselessness of breed-specific legislation, and in general, also known as BSL. And I just want to mention this is just a handful of the many organizations that oppose BSL. And for people who aren't familiar, I want you to listen to the names of these organizations: American Kennel Club, United Kennel Club, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, aka the ASPCA, the Humane Society of the United States, the National Animal Control Association. I'm like, animal control, the National Canine Research Council, the American Veterinary Medical Association, and the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, and about 20 others. And the reason I mention those, I think it's so important. It blows my mind that you have all of these incredible organizations who are saying this isn't working. And yet here we are again doing it to the XL bully. Talk to us a little bit about from your research, Dave, what you found to be the biggest problems with BSL.
So just I've been dealing with BSL since I got in this. In fact, I moved
Yeah.
from Maryland to Virginia solely because of BSL. When I live, I'm from the DC metropolitan area, Washington DC,
Yes.
and I've lived back and forth DC, Maryland, and I was living in PG County, Maryland, and this was in the late 80s, early 90s, and they put a ban on pit bulls,
Oh,
and they were trying to stop dog fighting and things like that. So they put this ban on pit bulls, and that's what I had at the time. I had American Pit Bull Terriers, and I had started Razor's Edge, and there was no way I was gonna live with that. So
oh,
I ended up
yeah.
moving to Virginia, and which is the best thing I ever had in my life because this is where everything really began down here.
Oh, good.
But that was the sole reason really for me leaving Maryland was BSL. So I've been dealing with BSL since I got in this. In the very beginning, we did a lot to fight BSL. We had various representatives that would go and speak and at different councils, and we would fight from different ways. Part of the ABKC standard was actually created because of BSL. The reason we allowed dogs from 3 to 6 months to compete, even though it's not a point system to compete, was because in California, at the time when we started, they had a law that any dogs under 3 months that weren't competing in dog, or by the time they hit 3 months, that weren't competing in dog shows had to be spayed or neutered, which is a BSL, but it was
Oh,
called a mandated spay and neuter law that was in California. So that's
okay.
when we implemented the 3-month-old class, 3 to 6. And that's why that still exists in ABKC today, which a lot of people are like, why do you have 3 to 6 if it's not pointed? They're too young to really point them. But the reason we did that was to save dogs in California from this,
Right.
from being, mandated spayed or neuter. So part of our own standard and our own way of shows is based on combating BSL. So, something we've been dealing with. There's a lady that we've been working with for years named Dahlia Keynes. I don't know if you know her. She's based out of
Yeah.
Florida. Amazing woman that has been fighting. I mean, we've been backing her for so many years. She finally overturned the final law, and I think in America and Miami-Dade. So that's finally overturned.
Yes.
Dedicated her life to that.
It's
But
amazing.
so it's something I've been dealing with forever. I've never not been dealing with BSL, but it's a proven that it doesn't work. I mean,
Right.
it doesn't even need to be debated anymore. It's proven that it doesn't work, and every legislation in America that we had is now gone because the fact that it just doesn't work, and everybody knows it doesn't work. If somebody does something criminal, they're going to do it regardless. So you can't stop that. So removing a breed of dog because you feel like something was being done wrong with it, it doesn't solve that problem. Those people just move on to, if they're doing something wrong, they just move on to another breed, or they continue
Right.
to have the same breed do something illegal with it. And it's like, you can never blame a breed.
No.
And the reason that we can guarantee that is if you statistically look at any breed, doesn't matter what breed it is, if you statistically look at any breed with the amount of dogs registered, meaning with that we can prove with paperwork that people own versus the amount of incidents of attacks, it's never even a 1%er on any breed. And that's
Right.
a fact. There's not
Right.
one breed that has more than 1% of its breed population involved in dog attacks. And there's way more dogs of those breeds than the statistics come back because they're not all registered. So it's even more than that. So it's less than 1% always. So statistically, there's no such thing as a dangerous breed. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist.
Right.
And BSL just it's proven not to work. It's just discriminating, and then a lot of times you have two big elements behind it. You have the media
Yep.
and you have the government. And the media, we all know media is based on hype. It's
Oh,
I know there's a lot of people out there that think the news is real. And I hate to tell you that the news is no more than any other TV station. They're fighting for ratings. And the higher their ratings are, the more chance they're going to get to be prime time or whatever. And
yep.
it's all based on ratings. So whatever the media can do to hype something is always going to have some falsehood to it. There's always something
Right.
behind it. It's rating based. And if
Sure.
anything starts to happen and the media jumps on it, then it's just going to amplify it more because they're looking to create these types of stories and they're looking to create hysteria. Because once there's hysteria, then there's everything grows. And then what happens a lot of times is the government react to that without even investigating, without even understanding. They are just
Mm-hmm.
going on something they're hearing and think, hey, let's just put a law in effect and this will stop this. But that doesn't work, and it's proven that it doesn't work.
Right.
So I mean, BSL, in my opinion, I hate to say it this way, but BSL is just BS. It's
Oh, it's
just some
complete.
BS legislation put out by government on media hype that means nothing. That's
Yeah.
extremely discriminatory. Extremely. I mean, look at a lot of the cases. They're based on dogs that are thought to be owned by a certain demographic or a certain thing. And
Yeah.
it's like it's extremely discriminatory, not just on the dogs, but on who they perceive own the dogs. And
Exactly.
it's always been that way. So no BSL works. No BSL has ever worked. And there is no actual breed that statistically can be shown as an aggressive or dangerous breed. They don't exist.
Yep.
And until governments start to put laws that affect the owners, the people that own the dogs, they'll never stop the problems because it's not ever the dogs, it's not ever the breed. It's
Yep.
always to do with the person. Dogs are just products of their environment and who's raising them and who owns them. And if
Totally.
you are neglecting your dog, abusing your dog, training your dog to do things that you're not doing properly or able to control, in all these different scenarios, you should be at blame
Yeah,
because you're the one that's now done something that's caused your dog to do something. And until
that's
the
true.
laws affect the actual individuals, they're never going to get anything that ever works. So, I
Yeah.
mean, the BSL is just a smoke and mirrors. They think, okay, we'll ban this breed and the
Yes.
problems go away. No, they don't go away because you still got the same people. So the
Yeah.
laws have to be based on people. They have to be based on, who knows, from licensings all the way down to prosecution. And that's
Yep.
the only way you're ever going to stop situations like that.
I love that you said smoke and mirrors because exactly what it is, what's going on with Rishi Sunak, I believe he's the prime minister in the UK,
Yeah,
is that he's now able to say, well, look at me, I'm taking care of the problem. And then the community who believes he's taking care of the problem, because all the media hype is like, wow, he took care of the problem. He didn't do jack shit. Let's be honest, right?
he's trying to
But
get
again, it's
reelected.
that idea that they feel like, oh, look, I came and solved this, and now people are going to reelect me and people look up to me. But they didn't do anything. And people, I don't understand what happened to facts. It's like in this society, facts don't matter. If you have this many groups against it, if it's statistically proven and scientifically proven that it does not do anything, why does it keep happening? And again, it's just this whole what I just mentioned about that cycle of them feeling like they did something. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's utterly ridiculous, and I've learned a lot about the UK
Frustrating.
in the past week. I've had sleepless nights. It's been a crazy roller coaster, and
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
a lot more difficult there than it is here. I will tell you.
Yeah,
In
I'll never
America,
live in
we
there.
we definitely have say in our government to some degree,
Right.
and over there they don't have the same say that we have here, which is sad. Because you're going to fall in situations where you don't even have a voice in the battle, and it's pretty sad. The more I've gotten involved in the UK situation, the more I've learned a lot about the UK government, their legislation over there, and I learned a lot about the dogs too, because I don't know all the dogs over there, and I learned a lot about culture, and that's where most of my time has been the past 2 weeks. Has been dedicated to that fight.
Yeah.
I came out and spoke to the media because here I am talking to the media the first time, not knowing the situation, and then I explained to them all about the American Bully and why we created it and temperament and all, and then they're showing me these videos of dogs attacking people, and I'm looking at the videos like, well, here you got a Mastiff type dog, here you got a
Oh, yeah.
definite pit bull, which has been banned for 30 some years. Here we
Hmm.
got like a band dog type dog, and then I'm telling them like, hey, what you guys are saying XL Bully isn't the American Bully. All these dogs you're showing me are mixed breeds and different breeds, and you're throwing this label on the American Bully by calling all these dogs XL Bullies, and most of the dogs you're showing me aren't even an American Bully. That got edited by the media, backfired on me. So instead of me getting a chance to fight this, our community the next day is attacking me, saying, "Hey, you said the XL bullies are band dogs and all this," and like, no, 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 no. You got to see the whole thing, but a lot of it got cut out. The media just put in what they wanted
Oh,
to put in,
horrible.
you know, and it's a shame for me because I had to fight to tell people like, "Hey, I'm actually really fighting for the dogs. I'm telling them that all these things you're saying are XL bullies are not American bullies. They weren't."
Right.
And that's an issue over there is identity. It's a breed
Yes.
identity because XL Bully is a generic term over there now that doesn't necessarily mean the XL variety of the American Bully. Yes, it does mean some of these dogs are the XL variety of the American Bully, but there's a lot of other dogs that are being put under this generic label as XL Bully that are different breeds, that are pit bulls, that are tall pit bulls, that are Mastiff crosses, that are, other breeds altogether, Presa Canario, Caña Corso. So all these dogs are everybody's saying XL Bully, XL Bully. It's very confusing because we're losing the identity of all these things are now being classed as American Bully, which aren't American Bully. The XL
Right.
variety is. But a lot of them are, and that's a big issue because that's what they're banning over there. They're running on this name, XL Bully. And if you listen to the legislation and the media, everything is based off of this term, XL Bully. And that term is whatever they want to interpret that term to mean.
Right.
And that's how their law is going to be written. And this is a problem. And this is where it's a big problem because in 1991, they passed a Dangerous Breed Act in the UK.
Mm.
And the pit bull was the main breed they put on it. And then they also put in like Tosa, dogs that weren't even there, Fila Brasilero. I think that
Yeah.
is Googled like dangerous breeds and they just threw 3 on there, just to make it look like it wasn't all the pit bull. But then the criteria to be a pit bull isn't based on pedigree, isn't based on lineage. It's based on dimensions, heights, and different little dimensions they drew up for what they say a pit bull should be. So that gave them the ability to go in and take anybody's dog that fit these dimensions. And the restrictions that they put on it are I mean, they're abstinent. I mean, you have to have a 6 foot tall fence. If you want to keep your dog, you have to apply for amnesty, basically. And to do that, now you have to. Somebody's going to come out and inspect you. You have to have a 6 foot fence around your house. Your dog has to be muzzled in public. It has to be spayed and neutered. You can't leave the dog with anybody else. If you can't keep the dog for any other reason, it has to be euthanized. You can't transfer ownership. It's all these crazy rules they put on to if you still are able to keep your dog. And on top of that, their interpretation is like, hey, if it fits these dimensions, it's a pit bull. So that means an
Right.
MP can go to your house and just say, hey, your dog is this tall, this long. I don't care if it's a corgi or whatever. It fit the dimension. I'm taking your dog. Or you're going to have to apply for this amnesty thing, which is ridiculous. So
Yes.
that's what's happening again. And to be honest with you, all they have to do is vote to put that dog in. They don't have to put in a new act. They already have the Dangerous Dog Act. So all they have to do is just say, hey, we're adding this XL bully to the dog act. There's no vote. There's no public voice. There's nothing. It's just, boom, we add it here, and here's what we say it is. And now our MPs can go out there and have the right to just interpret what they want as XL bully. And your guys are going to have go through the same thing that the people with pit bulls and all these other breeds went through. And the sad truth to it is most of the dogs are going to be euthanized because most of the people aren't going to be able to do everything that they want them to do. It's just the way it is. Or most of them are going to be taken anyway and just euthanized. So there's going to be a mass euthanization of dogs, mass euthanization of dogs that have done no wrong. And we're trying our best. Like, I got on board with passing this petition around, and suppose if you got 100,000 signatures, you were going to be heard by Parliament. They would stop and give you a voice, to be able to voice what it was. Well, that thing ended up getting over 500,000 signatures,
Oh, I
mass
bet.
amounts of people. But come to find out, it's not really like it is in America. We're not going to be in America. Like in America, we
Oh,
go to a public debate, we can sign up, we can go speak, we can, to the panel. There, that's not the way it's working at all. So we've
horrible.
come now. We've been working with a couple other breeders there, and we've now hired what we call a solicitor. Solicitor is a type of attorney there,
Hmm.
and that particular attorney has been granted access to speak to what they call ESPA, who's going to make the decision of whether or not this breed is added or not added to it. So we're giving all kinds of information and discovery through this attorney and directing other people also.
I love
Anyway, to make it, to end this, it's so we're now dealing with that person, and hopefully they don't make the decision to add it. I don't know that that's going to happen though. And if they do, then we move on to the next stage, which is to hire what they call a barrister, which is a higher level of attorney there. And we're going to need a barrister that will actually have to go back and fight the actual dangerous breed act that was put into place in 1991, which is going to be a huge thing because it's never been overturned since 91. And that's the only real way that you're ever going to beat this if they add this to the Dangerous Breed Act, which we know on October 18th. On October 18th, we'll find out what their plan is, and we'll find out
Okay.
exactly what their reasoning is, and we'll find out what their criteria is and what they're going to do. So as of now, we're trying to give enough information so that they realize this is ridiculous. But if they still decide to pass it, then the next stage is we have to fight a whole different way, which is going to be a long process, an expensive process. And unfortunately, it's not going to stop the immediate situation. So, but if we get to where that happens, we'll know after October 18th. And come October 18th, hopefully everybody tunes in and listens to what we have to say.
Yes.
Because if we have to go to the next stage, it's going to be very expensive. And it's going to be something where we're going to need the community support. And the UK is going to need the community support to help at least fund a barrister to now try to overturn the actual original law from 91. So we hope come the 18th that they don't add it, but it's kind of hopeless too in some ways because if they decide they want to, they're just going to, and there's nothing anybody can do to actually stop it other than send the right information. I mean,
Right.
protests are great. Whether or not they make a difference is hard to tell. It depends on whose eyes watched it and the way they felt. I think the best thing that people can do right now is just continue to do positive things and continue to try to educate the actual community, the rest of the
Right.
UK, the people that don't know about the dogs and have a misconception of the dogs. We need to educate those people and show them. So, it's rough. And again, it's super discriminatory because if they pass this, it's passed at what they feel fits the term XL bully, which isn't just an American bully XL. That's
Right.
almost, I can't tell you how many breeds are going to fall victim of that type of generic, legislation. So it's wrong and it's ridiculous.
It is so. Is there anything that people can do, who are listening? Is there a fund or something? Or is there any way to donate or to raise
Well, there,
awareness? I mean, what can we do?
well, we will have a fund, and come the 18th, we ask everybody just to wait till October 18th. Come the 18th, we know what happened.
Okay.
Now to the 18th, public awareness, positive public awareness, any way possible. If it requires doing protests, then they need to be organized protests, large
Right.
scale, organized, positive protests where it looks positive as well. Um, because it's not that you got to realize it's not the American bully owners that we need to convince. It's
Exactly.
the rest of the population of people that don't know anything about them or our dogs that we need to get to understand. So it's very important how you represent yourself, how you represent the breed. So I mean, at the moment, it's public awareness is the best thing that they can do. And then after the
Okay.
18th, hope it doesn't go that way. But if it does, then it's going to be financial, and
Okay.
it's going to have to be fought within the legal system.
Yeah.
And we will be guided by a barrister the whole time, so that we will be able to at least talk to the public and tell people, hey, this is the next stage. This is what we should be doing. This is what is being recommended. So
Yeah.
it's kind of difficult because, like I said, the ear to Parliament or the ear to ESPA, whatever you call it right now, is only through certain channels. So,
Okay.
and we have a solicitor right now that is doing that.
Okay.
And there's a lot of different people helping. ABKC is just one entity. We're just one party in it. There's a lot of different people in the UK working on this. So, uh, action is happening. I mean, we are doing
Oh
what we need to
yeah.
do. We
Oh,
don't know
that's
until
good.
the 18th exactly what it says. Everybody's speculating on what the media is saying and all these other crazy things. And,
Right.
you hear all this stuff. And truth be told, we don't actually know what the government is saying at the moment. And we don't know what they're going on. So all these things the media is putting out there and all these things people are running with, nobody really knows yet. So after the 18th, there will be
Okay.
clarity. Prior to the
Okay.
18th, public awareness.
All right. Well, I'm going to come back on and do a special show on the 18th, or as soon as I find out all the information, let everybody know, because we have got to do what we can. It's just complete insanity.
Yeah,
And it's all, yeah, I already mentioned it, the cycle, the fear, the making the governor, excuse me, the prime minister look like a hero when he's actually doing nothing. Dave,
yeah,
was there anything
that's
else you
just
wanted
that
to? Oh,
again
go
is just
ahead.
based. That's smoke and mirrors again. I mean, that guy is looking to be
Yeah.
reelected, and he's jumping on
Hmm.
a high hysteria of something, thinking that I'm going to stop this. And I mean, no, it's ridiculous. And he's done no
Sure.
investigation into it. So, and then you got to be
Of course
careful
not.
too. There's a lot of like things out there that are designed to be against things like that. There's this thing out there called Bully Watch or something, and it's like it's based
Oh
on,
gosh. Oh,
oh god, it's the worst
horrible.
thing I've ever read in my life. It's so inaccurate and so untrue that I can't believe it even exists. But it's designed to
Yes.
do things like this. It's designed to help the government break down something, you know what I mean, or whatever. It's just ridiculous. It's so. I looked at the statistics and I was like, what are they even talking about? There's a dog there mentioned saying it's in like 280,000. It's like dogs and craziness, and it's like in two
Just
pedigrees
lies.
in dogs. It's like doesn't even make any sense. But yeah, be very careful of false media. Be very careful of false entities and things like that are giving out false statistics.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dave, is there anything else you wanted to add today? Of course, I want to get all the ways we can follow you and find out more about you, but is there anything we didn't touch on that you were hoping we touch on today?
No, no, I think at some point in time that our community needs to realize the good things that our community has done. Not so
Yeah.
much focused on negative or competing with each other or fighting each other, talking about whose dog is this or that. Sometimes we need to get back to remembering, hey, there's some bigger things that we've done as a community that are amazing and things
Right.
that the world, like I said earlier, the world needs to see. And sometimes those things need to be said louder. Those things need to
Yeah.
be heard louder. We've done a lot for bringing people together. We've done a lot for pushing a new way of doing something that never
Yeah.
existed prior. There's been many great, beautiful things. So I just hope at some point people sometimes say, you know what, let's stop talking about the negative and let's remember there's a lot of positive.
Yeah.
Everybody out there in our community has American Bully. And they have an American Bully for a reason. Something made them fall in love with the breed. Something made them fall in love with the community. Something gave them some type of great feeling. That's what we got to get back to. Remember that feeling and start to push that a little bit more. and forget the other stuff. Aside from that, nothing but love for you guys at Bully Girl Magazine. You've been
Oh,
around
thank
for a
you.
long, long time. Long overdue my interview. I do owe them an apology. I think
Well,
they
I'm
sent one
honored.
years ago that I think I was overseas and I don't know what happened, but I do appreciate the time and I do appreciate everything you all are doing for the breed.
Well, I appreciate everything that you're doing, Dave. You're amazing. And how do we find you on social? I mean, speaking of social media, there is some good things though, because you get to find good people like you.
I'm old school, so I haven't got past Instagram. So if you're
Okay,
looking
I
for me on
hear.
TikTok, you won't find me. But I can't dance. I can't do any of
I
this.
was about to say, I can't dance either, so I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
post the
Anything
same
past
stuff.
Instagram, and I like to send you back to my MySpace page, but I'm sure none of y'all gonna be able to even know what that is. So, um, yeah,
I
Facebook.
remember.
It's just yeah, you remember MySpace?
I
uh,
never did it, but I remember.
no, I was heavy in MySpace. Yeah, and
Oh,
before that, I was with Hometown AOL. That was the first one. But anyway, um, Facebook is just Dave Wilson. You can find me on Facebook, Dave Wilson. Instagram, it's official Dave Wilson at Instagram, on Instagram. So those are the two main ways to find me. Other than that, obviously ABKC has plenty of outlets, so you can always look to the ABKC for things as well. But me personally, those are the two ways to find me on social media.
well, this has been such an honor, Dave. I've had such a good time and I've learned so much. And I just, oh, you are always well. Obviously, our door is always welcome. Our door is always welcome. Our door is always open, and you are always welcome.
Thank
If
you.
you want to follow me, you can go to at Lisa Davis MPH on Twitter and TikTok. You're going to see, I mean, not Twitter, Instagram. You're going to still see my pit bull Blue, my lab Benji once in a while. It's mostly Blue, though, let's be honest, because he is my heart and soul. I do love a pit bull. And you can also follow at Bully Girl Mag and get the app. The app is great. The Bully Girl app. You can get it on Google Play. You can go to the App Store on iTunes. Let's see. And be sure to go to www.bgmwarehouse.com. You can get this shirt. You can get lots of great merch. You can subscribe to the magazine. So much good stuff. So I want to thank everybody. Thanks, Dave, again. And everybody keep coming back. Rate, review, subscribe, and have a great day.
Thank you.